What's up, everybody? Y'all know the business. I want to give everybody an update on what I've been doing with my Reef Tank for the last couple of months. So this is going to serve as my Reef Tank update for March 2018. So the first thing I want to talk about are the changes that I've been making to my Apex system over the last couple of months. I went out and I purchased an auto top-off kit to replace a DIY setup that I have of a FMM and a couple of optical switches. I like the bracket that the ATK comes with, and I also like the additional float valve just in case the other two optical sensors don't work. I've never had any problems with the ATK. It's never locked up on me. It's never detected a high water value and kept pumping, and it's never clogged up like a lot of people complain about. Now, I have heard a lot of the complaints with it clogging up are because people are using calc in their ATO, but since I don't do that, I don't really have that problem. Like I said, I've never had an issue. The setup is easy and it just works for me. The next thing I added were 4 new flow sensors. I have 2 sensors on each one of my returns on my display. I have a 1-inch sensor going to my bubble tip tank, and I have a 1/2-inch sensor for my GFO reactor. The one thing I like about the 1/2-inch sensor is I know exactly how much water it takes for my GFO to tumble, so I always know it's working correctly. Now, the last thing I added was an Apex dose. The reason why I added a dose is I wanted to see how it ran when it fed a calcium reactor. Now, a lot of people will tell you that a dose is a bad choice to run a calcium reactor. You need a continuous duty pump, maxi jets, or even running it off of your return pump on a manifold. I didn't like any of those other options. Whenever I ran it from a maxi jet, it would clog up or the flow would slow down and I'd have alkalinity swings. The same thing would happen when I ran it from my return pump. So I was reading a thread on Reef to Reef with Terrence from Neptune Systems, and this is how he has his calcium reactor running. So with a little help from Neptune, they were able to get this working for me, and so far so good. I haven't had any problems with it. I like having the ability to run a steady stream of water through the calcium reactor. Right now I'm running my pH at 6.6, and I have a manual profile that's set up to run probably about 48 milliliters per minute through the calcium reactor. So like I said, I haven't had any problems. The one thing I do want to mention is if you do this, it's a very loud setup. Now, luckily, my dose is not in the same room as my display tank. It's actually in a whole nother room with my quarantine tanks, and it's sitting under one of the stands for one of those quarantine tanks, so I can't hear it when I'm in the same room with the display tank. So that's the only major problem I see with it so far is the noise, but if it's not in the same room, you won't hear it. I think it's actually a good setup. Now, over the last couple of months, I've added a few new fish. I've added a Lamarck's Angel, a firefish, and an exquisite wrasse. Now, unfortunately, the exquisite wrasse likes to jump in my overflow, so he was in the overflow. I tried to get him out of there by using a filter slot and moving the return tube out. He went into the sump, he jumped out the filter sock, and now he is in my sump. Eventually I'll get him out, but I think he's gonna stay in the sump for a little while. That's what he gets for jumping in the overflow, or that's what I get for not covering the overflow, whatever way you want to call it. Now, on my bubble tip anemone tank, I've added 2 more BTAs. One's a green with kind of red tips, and the other is a rainbow. I've slowly been moving frags out of that tank, but right now I really don't have a place for them to go. I have had an Aptasia invasion in this tank, so I've just recently added some Aptasia eating nudibranchs in order to fight this invasion. Hopefully they will take care of the Aptasia problem for me. Now, I've also started a new coral frag tank. This is what I'm going to use for quarantine for corals coming into my system. I prefer to start quarantining corals. I've been lucky to this point, and I don't want to keep pressing my luck. So the idea is to put these new corals in this quarantine tank. It's just a 40 breeder with a Radion G3 hanging over it. So I'm starting this tank the old-fashioned way. I just added a few pieces of rock, water, a power head, and heater, and I just dumped in pure ammonia till I got it to the point where it will start the cycle, and I'm just letting it go. I'm not in any really rush to get this tank cycled, so I'm just going to let it go the old-fashioned and natural way. Well, that's it for the update on my reef tank for March 2018. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts about any of the changes that I've been making to my reef. Don't forget to come back for my series on what I see under the microscope. As always, YouTube, happy reefing. See y'all later.